Hey everybody, and welcome to Let's Look at Foul Play. I was gonna say that Foul Play is a game that I've been looking forward to for a long time, but that would be dishonest. This is a game that I had no idea was even coming out until Josh and Caden and I played it at PAX. Kind of looked at each other and we're like, holy shit, this is fun. Where did this game come from? Comes out on Steam this Wednesday, September 18th. So kind of came out of nowhere, like bright flash, and here we are. This is a beat 'em up, a brawler, depending on what you want to call it. And I'm just gonna go ahead and say that this is the best beat 'em up or brawler that I've played since Castle Crashers. It's the first beat 'em up since Castle Crashers, which came out in like 2009, that has really given me that kind of same sense of joy. Oftentimes when I play beat 'em ups now, I'm like, yeah, XXX, AA, YY, etc., and I just kind of mash buttons and then I beat a boss and I'm like, yeah, it was alright. This is not like that. It almost has a combat style reminiscent of character action games like DMC, Metal Gear Rising, Bayonetta, stuff like that. It's not quite as deep or as visceral as that. There still is some button mashing that goes on for sure, but, you know, even the moment-to-moment gameplay is a lot more fun than your average beat-em-up. I've been rambling here. Let's get started. I am using the Xbox 360 controller. It does allow for a keyboard. And I should point out that I am playing as a... I am playing single player right now, obviously. I've invested probably about 2 to 3 hours so far into Foul Play, and that represents beating the first play here, plus doing some co-op over the course of these missions. By the way, I should mention this, a lot of these games these days don't have this feature, so I should point this out. Totally has online co-op. Cade and I have messed around with it. It totally works. There was a weird little bug once where the second player online, the non-host character, didn't build a meter, but I've only had that happen once, and it wasn't all that big of a deal in the whole scheme of things. So, Foul Play. Why don't we just get started here? We'll start with scene 3. Okay, this is fine. Each one of these scenes probably represents about 15 to 20 minutes of gameplay. It depends, though. They do vary in length a little bit. And what's cool about Foul Play, beyond the actual gameplay, which of course I will talk about ad nauseum probably, is the aesthetic. So this does take place... it's got kind of like a movie theater kind of setting to it. So we can see the audience there. It's not like something that's trying to immerse you in the experience. You're like an audience member watching Mr. Scampwick and Professor Dashworth, this kind of like Indiana Jones or Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson pair in the Victorian era. I don't know, the early 20th century, late 19th century. I guess that's probably not Victorian era. Beating up assholes, essentially, and, you know, scouting for sweet treasure in the Egyptian desert here. So we're trying to find this guide who I think has been captured now. Originally he was like our #1 antagonist, but now he is gone. I apologize if there's any frame rate issues, by the way. That is just a Fraps issue. Alright, so it's a beat 'em up. Basic way that this works, just get this to happen here, is that you're going to use X and Y on the 360 controller for your heavy and light attacks, but the way the kind of Bayonetta or Metal Gear Rising comparisons come in here, or DMC or Metal Gear Rising comparisons come in here, is that you're not just going to like walk into them and constantly bash their brains out until they die, which is, you know, the formula that beat 'em ups have followed typically for like 20 years. The way that you want to do in this one, if you want to succeed and get high combos and actually have a lot of fun with the game, is to focus on when the enemies are about to do their attacks. This gives the game a much more fluid style of combat. That's not to say it's not repetitive, because it is repetitive, but where most beat 'em ups suffer for that, in this case, just actually wailing on enemies is fun because you're constantly on the lookout for when they are going to do their next attack, and thus kind of intercepting it and getting ready to parry. And you parry with the B button. Enemies all have a very clear tell of when they're about to parry, so it does make it relatively easy to figure out when things are going to go down. And there's a variety of different moves you can do from a parry as well. There's a parry throw, for example. Oh, I almost botched that one. My combo died, but that's okay. There's a parry pile driver, which I've been using a lot, and normally when you parry an enemy, you also get a pretty sizable window to just wail on them with the X and Y button. So I also do have a special meter like this, and this gives me double combo. And with double combo, of course, that makes our combo grow. There's no health meter in the game, which is also a little bit funky. But the way that it works is essentially, it's almost like a rhythm game, like a Guitar Hero or a Rock Band, and you're trying to moderate the audience's mood. So when the audience is happy with you, you gain a ton of points, and you know you're in no danger of dying. But as you get hit, as you mess up your combos, the audience gets less and less enthralled with you, and as a result of that, you're more likely to die. If the audience mood falls down to 0, I believe that it is over for you. So let's move onwards here. This is probably the best I've ever done at Foul Play. Other cool elements of it being a movie or a play, of course, you have to actually hit your marks. It is a movie because you occasionally find directors and stuff like that. So this is just the first act. I will say, you know, like a lot of beat-em-ups, they usually have one of two problems. Either the beat-em-up is going to be way too fucking hard, and this is something that, you know, is kind of a vestige, I guess, of when they used to eat your quarters in the arcade, or when they were designed to eat your quarters. Or they're way too easy. And Foul Play does err on the side of being a little bit too easy, which is, you know, there's positives and negatives to it. It's a negative because I've never really found myself, at least so far, at great risk of dying. There have been enemies who have been pretty tough. I mean, not dying, but failing a mission because of, you know, bad audience reaction. There, I got hit there, and that really hurt my mood. I thought I was going to have a perfect act for a second. That happens so rarely, though. But yeah, I haven't really found myself at risk of actually failing a mission or reaching a fail state. But it does then shift the focus more towards score attacking, which is kind of cool. And again, the score attacking in this game is some of the most fun that I've ever played in a beat-em-up in my entire life. And this is worth noting, I've invested most of my time with this game in the single player, and typically beat-em-ups are a really shallow experience that shines when you're playing with your friends. This still shines in co-op for sure, but that being said, it's still fun to play in single player. It definitely, you know, it wears its influences on its sleeve, I would say. There's definitely a huge Castle Crashers vibe here. If you look at the art style, the enemy design, and stuff like that. A lot of this stuff, or a lot of these enemies, especially that big guard there, look like they could essentially be from, like, the Behemoth's art book or something like that. That was not the most elegant way to phrase that. That's totally fine, though. You know, it's been fucking nearly 5 years since Castle Crashers came out. And I've not played anything even close to a beat-em-up resembling or coming close to the same amount of fun that Castle Crashers was when it first came out. And I keep saying when it first came out because, you know, beat-em-ups don't really have that long of a shelf life in my gaming experience anyway. You know, I've played a bunch of Castle Crashers since 2009. But, you know, it eventually gets tired. It wears itself a little bit thin. Oh, we can mash the shit out of the button here. I should really use my meter to get some more points here. By the way, you might be noticing that there are some kind of special... Please attack, thank you. There are some kind of special missions on every single act or every single level that you can do, and if you accomplish those, it actually unlocks... I think they're called trinkets in the game. It's kind of like the Binding of Isaac trinkets, actually, or like a... I don't know, like a rune in a League of Legends or a perk in Call of Duty or something like that. So there is a degree of character customization, even though it's not like, you know, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles where each person has their own weapon and, you know, each weapon has its own kind of unique properties like reach, attack speed, etc., etc. But you can get your own trinkets and totems, and what you do with these is, like the ones I have equipped right now, one of them is audience mood fills faster, so this allows me to get way more points. The other one is that every time you parry, it actually gives you +3 combo, which is super important, because it means that even when you're playing defensively, oh, please let me parry something here. Even when you're playing defensively, oh no, I got bit by the zombie. Even when you're playing defensively, you can still build your combo, and building your combo is essential to keeping your audience mood high. So, I haven't unlocked any more of these. The way that you unlock these, actually, I do have another one. I forget what it is, though. I think it's like you have a brief period of invincibility when you're about to die, so that you have a window for kind of redemption, I guess. This is going to be... I did get hit there, didn't I? I think so, yeah. But my meter is available, so let's pop that and go to town. I believe you also do double damage when you have your meter active. I'm not totally sure about that, though. This is not the best that I've ever done anymore. But the early parts of this were. It's a game that it rewards focus instead of just, like, blindly mashing the buttons. And that's not to say, again, that it's that difficult. But in order to keep your combo going, there are specific things that you'll have to do at times. And it's important to make sure that you are doing those, or you're not going to get a very good score. And, you know, I realize that sometimes I come across as a hypocrite because I play a game like Splinter Cell, and I'm like, why would I play stealthy? I don't care about score in a game like Splinter Cell. And to a certain extent, that is true. But in this, I don't know, it's just a lot more satisfying to play it in a sort of skillful and deliberate way versus just mashing the buttons. I'm not sure if you can succeed mashing the buttons. It's the less fun way to do it, in my opinion, though, for sure. The one complaint, you know, I have complaints about the game. Those largely boil down to typical complaints about a beat-em-up. These enemies are taking forever to kill. I forgot to mention, by the way, if I throw a smaller enemy, that will allow me to actually stun a bigger enemy. one of them is dead here. But yeah, the complaints I have about the game primarily are that, you know, it's the same as other beat-em-ups. Single player is not necessarily the most exciting thing in the world, although it is a lot of fun relative to most beat-em-ups. Get out of here, man. Beyond that, it's only 2-player instead of 4-player. That's a relatively major complaint for some people, I imagine, because, of course, you know, its nearest competition, which honestly probably still is Castle Crashers, obviously has 4-player. But it kind of makes up for that to a certain extent, for some people at least, by making it very deliberate. Like, there is a story and an interaction. I parried that guy and threw him there, in case you're wondering just what the heck was going on there. But there's an interaction between the characters. And each one has, like, their own dialogue, and there's an actual story and narrative being told here, and it's told through exposition and funny dialogue and good humor and stuff like that. So it is a little bit more of a story-focused game, which is why, I guess, or one reason why there's less characters, but the characters are more scripted. So there's your trade-off. The only other major complaint I have, and this sounds like total marketing shillery, but I hate that there's not, like, a double pack offered on Steam. Like, Foul Play is $15. Seems like a fair price to me. I did get the audience mood back on my side there, which is good. But yeah, it's $15. It seems like a fair price for me, given, you know, its competition and the quality of the game itself. But there's no double pack. So, like, if you buy it, you can't buy a 2-pack for, like, $25 or something like that. That is probably the greatest praise that I've given a lot of games on Steam, being like, let me buy more copies of this at once. Like, a lot of games that are co-op focused do that. So that's a little bit disappointing, but I guess it's not that big of a deal. So occasionally you will encounter segments in the game which are not just, you know, beating the shit out of enemies, although it kind of is still just beating the shit out of enemies. What we have to do here, I should totally, like, actually focus on the dialogue at some point. But what we have to do here is take out all of these enemies to allow us to escape this trap before time runs out. I don't think I mentioned this, or I don't think I finished my thought on this, by the way. But the way that you unlock those tokens is by beating the 3 challenges that are kind of presented to you in every single mission. So in this mission, I believe there was, like, get 3 perfect scenes, which means you keep a combo going until all the enemies on the screen are dead. There's also escape the tomb trap in under 60 seconds. And I think there was, like, it was take out the mummy leader last, which we totally did. Escape the tomb trap in under 60 seconds and get a 75 times combo, which we also did. We're going to easily beat this one, by the way. There we go. We had a ton of time left over. Yeah, so we've accomplished all 3 of these, and this will allow us to get the trinket for this mission, or the token for this mission, or the totem for this mission. I don't really know what they're called. Okay, so let's actually talk about the dialogue. So, Professor Dashworth, very much our Sherlock Holmes type character here, Monopoly Man, and Mr. Scampwick, using his chimney brush, is much more of, like, the young, plucky kind of Robin type, I guess, if we were Batman in this situation. It's really shitty for me to kind of pop you in the middle of this dialogue, and I apologize. We are getting close to the end of this mission, though. I'm really hoping that I'll be able to reach 5 stars. So again, you know, emphasizes that the game, much less about just beating the missions than it is about kind of beating them with style. In order to get 5 stars, you know, oh no, my combo, I had my special, and I still fucked up my situation there. I totally forgot what I was going to say. I thought it was going to be a negative, but I have stopped, so that's okay. I mean, it would have been okay either way, but obviously it couldn't have been too pressing if it doesn't weigh on my mind too much anymore. So yeah, I really like Foul Play. I like it a lot. We were really taken with it when we played it at PAX, which means as soon as I got my code, I decided to do my due diligence and be like, yo, does this game still, you know, hold its value after a couple of hours of play? Because oftentimes, you know, beat 'em ups, you play one level and you're like, oh, that's super cool. And then you play another level and you're like, you know, your enthusiasm starts to wane a little bit. And then you play another level and you're like, I don't want to play this game anymore. You get to like the first boss and you're kind of done with it. That's not been my experience so far. I'm still loving Foul Play, still playing a bunch of it, and I'm intending on beating the whole game over the course of co-op. Sorry, that's my coffee maker as usual. Preferably with, you know, someone from the NLSS or my lovely girlfriend, who you also know if you have watched the channel too much. Or watched the channel just enough, I should say. There we go. That's good marketing. But yeah, I'm excited to play it, and that's not necessarily something to be sneezed at because, oh my god, please let me do some attacking here. That's not necessarily something to be sneezed at because it looks like a long game. There's at least 4 or 5 plays, each one, you know, roughly an hour long. A 5-hour beat 'em up is pretty sizable. And, you know, I don't know if the missions get more and more difficult as time goes on. Please tell me that I can actually not die here, because this is looking really tough, actually. Audience mood is at, like, 0. They're booing the screen. They're giving thumbs down. Please build this up just a little bit more. There we go. Okay. Bring him back in. I should have thrown him there. We are almost at 5 stars. I'm not sure if there's a boss fight at the end of this level. If there isn't, that's totally my bad. I should have picked a level that has a boss fight, because the boss fight's pretty fun. Again, very reminiscent of Castle Crashers. Big enemy, summons a lot of small enemies. That's not necessarily a Castle Crashers thing. That shows up in a lot of beat-em-ups. Director, get off the screen! We got all that Aladdin stuff in the background. I think they call it gold. What do you got to say, Mr. Scampwick? More enemies. You know, I will say, it suffers from some of the same problems that beat-em-ups have, you know, endemic to them. Little repetitive. Oftentimes, by the end of the level, you're like, okay, come on. Well, we did hit 5 stars there, which is nice. You're like, come on, just send me the enemy, like, or give me the boss. I can solve it. I'm basically done with this level. And that's cool, you know? One of the problems with a lot of RPGs, lots of cutscenes. It's long. You kind of know what you're getting into, is what I'm getting at there. That's not just me shitting on RPGs. You know, it's my way of saying, know your genre. If you're not the kind of person who is ever into beat-em-ups, this is not going to change your mind. But this is among the best beat-em-ups that I've played in a long, long time. Very reminiscent, again, of the joy that I got playing beat-em-ups as a kid, or the joy that I got playing Castle Crashers, but I've not really experienced in some time since then. You know, Fist Puncher, it's all right. It's not as good as this. I'm trying to think of other beat-em-ups that have come out recently. Oftentimes, you know, they suffer from being just a little bit boring. This one, not so much, because you're constantly on your toes, mostly with the parry system. And, you know, the combo system, or the combat that you're seeing here, probably looks a little bit repetitive. It is repetitive. Again, it's a beat-em-up. But, oh, I actually did get hit there. I can't believe that. Yeah, it is repetitive. You're doing the same thing a lot of the time. But doing the same thing in this case is actually more than just pressing X and Y. You're pressing X, Y, and B. B to give you that parrying system, and then, you know, kind of snowballing into other enemies. It works, is just the way to put it. It reminds me, not only superficially, of combat like Devil May Cry and Metal Gear Rising. Seriously, because you're constantly, like, on your toes at all times. You're not just mashing the buttons over and over. This might be the end of this level, and if so, we'll probably get an encore. Yeah, okay, so you get an encore if you perform reasonably well. And in the encore, enemies die in one hit, and every time you kill an enemy, you get a time bonus, so you try to keep it going as long as is possible. And enemies, you know, ricochet into other enemies, so I've had, you know, differential experiences with this. Sometimes it works out very well for me. Sometimes it works out terribly. I definitely think it is not in your best interest to parry during these unless the enemies are constantly attacking you, and then you can do something like that and throw a bunch of them away. But it's sometimes just easier to hit enemies into other enemies. Good, so this is going to represent our kind of score for the level. We got a new page in our story. We got a new move. You do unlock moves at the end of at least all of these early levels. I completed all of the challenges, which would give me the trinkets here. Oh, so we've Rising Demon, or How to Uppercut the Moon. A gentleman pugilist, I guess, realizes his enemies are weakest when flailing helplessly in the air. Hold down Y on the ground to execute the Rising Demon and launch multiple enemies in the air with you. As of the publication of this text, the Rising Demon is yet to be accepted into the Queensberry boxing rule set. Okay, so it takes you into the air with your enemies, a great shortcut into an air combo. Cool, this is the 8th move I've unlocked. I'm constantly learning new stuff. You might have seen that I did a charge attack near the end of that act that we just played. That's the first time I've ever used that. I unlocked it on the last level. So they are constantly introducing new mechanics as well. Even though I've played, again, 2.5 to 3 hours so far, I'm still constantly mixing things up. I learned the pile driver recently, the throw, and then hitting people in the air and then throwing them. I'm not sure if those are unlocked from the get-go or if you do actually have to learn them. So let's take a look at our other charms. I was totally wrong. So these are the 3 charms that I've unlocked so far. +3 combo for every successful parry. Very useful to make sure your combo stays going. Audience mood drops less when you suffer a blow. That could be useful. I did almost find myself in a scary situation there. And Barracorn main, receive 15% more fame every time it's awarded. Okay, so this wasn't audience mood. This is actually the meter that I unlocked, or unleashed, to give myself extra damage and extra combo. Let's see some of these other trinkets here. Faster execution on all attacks that require a button hold. That's cool, so your charge attacks will charge faster. Dodge distance increased by 60. I didn't use dodge at all. Mood meter will increase faster. That's the one I want. Special move meter will feel faster. Pile driver attack range is increased. Cool. I like all of these. They all kind of change the way you play. And in terms of the length of the game, again, first act, single player, probably took me about an hour and a half to an hour and 45 minutes. So multiply that by 2 plays, 3 plays, 4 plays, 5 plays, 5 plays. Although the 5th play only has 2 acts, so maybe that's going to be a little shorter, but maybe also a little bit more difficult. Online co-op, I've played it. You know, maybe invested a half an hour into that total so far, but there's been no hiccups except for one weird bug. But keep in mind, I am playing a build that is still about a week away from release. Overall, there's very little bad that I can say about Foul Play. It's $13.50 for its opening week, or pre-orders at least, on Steam. It's going to be $15 when it actually comes out. I can't recommend this enough if you are a fan of beat-em-ups. It's the best one I've played in, you know, the length of an undergraduate education, essentially, over the course of the past... Well, I mean, I haven't been in undergrad education for the past 4 years. But if you were... Yeah, you'll be like, this is the best game I've played since senior year of high school, or best beat 'em up I've played since senior year of high school. Seriously, really well done. Kudos to the developers and the publishers for this one, because Foul Play is a whole heck of a lot of fun. Looking forward to playing a lot more of it, and I am sure that you will probably see more of this on my channel in the future. So again, link to pick up the game or pre-order it, depending on when you're watching this, in the video description below. As always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please consider leaving your support in the form of a like or a civil comment about what you liked or did not like about the video. And if you want to see more first impressions type videos of new upcoming indie and other games, make sure to subscribe. As always, thanks for watching. I will see you next time.